Hello viewers, let's now take your secondary course in English, lesson number 7, The Shoe Shine. Unemployment is a serious social and psychological problem today, not just in India but in different parts of the world. The number of educated unemployed youth is increasing day by day. Many young people migrate to bigger cities or metros in the hope of finding a suitable job. What do you think happens when their efforts fail and they have neither money nor shelter, friends, relatives to support them in an alien environment? Most people become victims of depression and frustration. Driven by extreme hunger and helplessness, some commit suicide, others may resort to drugs to ward off their mental pain and agony, and yet others may be driven to some criminal activities. There would be some who may take up menial or petty unskilled jobs to earn their bread and butter and live a simple, obscure life. Now let us look at the problem in another way. How would you react to a situation where you would be compelled to take a job of a laborer, a rickshaw puller, a porter, a newspaper vendor? Our society has divided jobs into two categories: the blue-collar jobs and the white-collar jobs. The white-collar jobs are meant for office workers and executives. The blue-collar jobs are meant for menial workers. And our society, rightly or wrongly, associates the white-collar jobs with some kind of a status and dignity. Read the lesson Shoe Shine to find out what it is about and what concern it raises. The lesson Shoe Shine is about one such man who graduated from a college in Calcutta and came to Delhi looking for a job. The man spent days looking for a job, but with no results. He was now very despairing. He was left with just ₹5 in his pocket. Now read part 7.2.1 of the story from the line, "I was standing outside to, we'll find money somehow." In this section, we are told about the meeting of a narrator with a shoe shine. The narrator had come to Delhi to look for a job. He had knocked practically every door, but to no avail. He was now totally dejected and had lost all hopes of finding any suitable job. Also, his worry was that he was left with just ₹5 in his pocket. How was he to survive? Let us see what happened with this man. The narrator says he was standing outside a tea house in Connaught Place watching the Delhi traffic, wondering whether he could afford even a cup of tea and chips when a simple shoe shine walked up to him and asked if he could polish his shoes. Who is a shoe shine? A shoe shine is a person who polishes people's shoes. You must have seen many such shoe shines on streets or even in local trains. The story is told in first-person narrative as though it is a personal story of the narrator. One day, Shovan, a young shoe shine, spots a young man standing alone, lost in his thoughts. This man is the narrator himself. He approaches him and asks if he could polish his shoes. The narrator wards off his offer and says he cannot afford it. Shovan is quite used to people refusing his offer, but was a bit surprised when the man said he could not afford it. He wondered why the man said so. He looked educated and decently dressed. He could not be so poor as not to have money to pay a shoe shine. As he thought about it, he looked even more puzzled. Why? He thought perhaps the narrator was trying to fool him, or perhaps that was his style of turning down his offer. He also thought that maybe, like other proud and ignorant rich who do not hesitate to make fun of the petty workers, this man too was mocking at his poverty and profession. In spite of feeling hurt, Shovan again requested to allow him to polish his shoes for him. This time, the narrator was clearly irritated and told him that he was jobless and he had no money. Shovan very innocently told him that if he was looking for a job and had to attend various interviews, then it was important that he goes for the next interview looking prim and proper. Nobody would look at a man with dirty shoes. The dejected narrator made a comment out of sheer frustration. Polished shoes will not make things any better for him. What did he mean by saying this? He clearly meant that he had lost out on luck, that he had no hopes of finding a job, so it did not matter whether his shoes were polished or not. Determined to make the narrator agree to let him clean his shoes, Chauvin started walking with him. Now the narrator explained that he was left with barely 5 rupees, which was not enough to buy him a cup of tea with snacks. He had to survive, and that too in a new city where he had no one to turn to for food and shelter. The shoe shine walked along with him. The narrator got into some kind of conversation and asked him about his story. Chauvin told him that he had lost his father, and since there was no one in the family to support him, he had to give up his studies and earn money for himself and his family's survival. Chauvin also came to know that the narrator had come to Delhi for all the way from Calcutta to look for a job. During this course of their conversation, the narrator casually asked Chauvin how much money does a shoe shine earn on an average during a day. Chauvin told him that a shoe shine could earn somewhere between 3 to 5 rupees a day. This income would go up during the tourist season. The narrator did some quick mental calculations. He realized that the shoe shine was making more money in a month as compared to a clerk in any office. At once, an idea struck him. Why not work as a shoe shine? He discussed his idea with Chauvin. Chauvin was again surprised. Why on earth would an educated man want to sit on the roadside and do such menial tasks when he could easily get a white-collar job which was more dignified? He could not believe that a graduate could ever be serious about taking such a job. Once again, he thought that the man was not serious and that he was merely making fun of him and his profession. The narrator then told him that he had left his home without sitting through his exams, and that even he landed himself with a clerk's job, he would be earning less than a shoe shine. Chauvin compared his own situation with that of the narrators. For Chauvin, taking up a shoe shine job was a compulsion. He was not educated, so no one would give him a job in a decent office. But the narrator's situation was clearly different. He was educated and sooner or later get a job. No educated man would like to take up a menial task such as that of a shoe shine. The man he was talking to was educated. What could be his compulsion then? Chauvin had no idea of the way the mind of an educated unemployed man works. When the narrator repeatedly made his request and looked serious, Chauvin began to believe that the man was speaking the truth. He said he would ask others. Who were these others, and why did Chauvin have to ask them? The others were the other shoe shine friends. They had organized themselves into some kind of a shoe shine union. The union had some rules for themselves which no one could defy. He was not sure if the union would allow him because he knew that an extra hand would mean less income for others because the customers would get divided too. On hearing this, the narrator confesses that he had not thought of all this at all. The shoe shine had opened up a whole new world for him, and becoming a shoe shine became his sole aim. What did the narrator mean by saying a whole new world open up for him? What kind of insights he got into the profession of a shoe shine? Well, he realized that the business of shoe shines was highly organized. They had some code of conduct and rules which all members followed. They had a character to reckon with. That they knew which places were more profitable. Seeing a little ray of hope, the narrator asked Chauvin the price of a shoe shine kit. Chauvin told him that it could be easily between 10 to 12 rupees. The author now looked even more worried. With a mere rupees 5 in his pocket, what could he do? He asked Chauvin if he could help him by giving assistance in buying a kit. Chauvin assured him that if the union gave him permission, then he did not have to worry. They would help him out. By this time, Chauvin realized that the film show at Regal was going to get over. That was the time many people got their shoes polished. He told the narrator that he had to rush, otherwise he would lose his customers. He told the narrator to meet him outside the Regal after the last show was over at around 11 o'clock. So saying this, he left the narrator alone for some time. Now read part 7.2 of the story. You read from I walked along the streets to Chauvin Lal that night. In this part of the story, we are told about the narrator's meeting with the union members and the conditions they imposed upon him before granting him permission. The narrator started walking down the streets to pass time. He began thinking about how life and society treated different people. In his meditative mood, he turned over some pages of the great history of India, especially Delhi. This was a country which had a great history. About 7 empires had come and gone. This was indeed the country of great Mughals and emperors like great Ashoka. There were great people who are still remembered for creating history. They thought over the irony of the same great country. On the one hand, it groomed rulers and emperors, and on the other hand, it was not able to provide a simple job to an educated man. Neither could the same country provide means for education to a child who had no one to support him. Lost in such thoughts, the narrator did not realize that it was already 11 o'clock and that he had walked almost 8 miles. As soon as he saw the time, he rushed to meet Chauvin outside Regal. By now, the last show had ended. The hustle and bustle in the streets began to ebb as people went back home. Connaught Place now wore a deserted look. He hurried his steps. Soon he spotted Chauvin and his friends. Chauvin then introduced the narrator to his friends and told them that he too wanted to become a shoeshine. The members of the union looked uncomfortable and uneasy. Obviously, their worry was that if an extra hand were to come in, it would mean less takeaway money for each at the end of the day. But it seemed luck was on the narrator's side. At this time, the union was facing a critical problem. The municipal authorities gave out licenses to hawkers and other roadside sellers. But they had refused to grant any license to the shoeshines. The authorities felt that a shoeshine's business was somewhat like that of a beggar. And they wanted to ban any such job which was akin to begging. They also knew that refusal would mean more corruption because these people would then resort to bribing the policeman on duty to allow them to work. Unmindful of the rise in corruption, the authorities stuck to their gun and refused to relent. The Shoeshine Union was trying their best to plead their case with the authorities to grant them a license. But they had no educated man amidst them who could suitably and sensibly argue their case and correspond with them. So here was a chance for them, they thought. If they granted permission, then maybe this man could be useful for them. So they set a precondition. In case he was willing to represent their case and correspond with the authorities, they could consider granting permission. The narrator saw a ray of hope. He was more than willing to fight their case. Then each member of the union contributed his share of money to buy him a kit. They bought a kit for him and also told him to keep his 5 rupees with him for his food and other needs. That night, the narrator spent with Shovan in his hut. Now that you have read and understood the story, let's discuss some important points. Number 1. Do you think any job should be treated as more dignified than others? Number 2. What should authority or government do to help children who could not go to school because of family reasons? What should government do to secure jobs for the educated youth? What should the government do to provide relief and some security to the unemployed till such time they find a job? What kind of curriculum should be introduced in our education system so as to equip people on skills required for each job? Now that government has already introduced the scheme of free and compulsory education for all children, what kind of problems still exist? How can we resolve such issues? I hope, learners, now that you have understood the lesson and the underlying issues and concerns, I hope you will be better equipped to handle your tests. Do not become overconfident. Read the questions well before writing your answers. Do not forget to give one reading of the stories a day before your exams. Best of luck. Thank you.